Hi, thanks for your interest in pediatric manual therapy. And what we have to share is a session that we did with Truman, who's a preschooler, and he came with his mom, Kelly, and baby sister, Lark. Mom didn't have any significant concerns for him, but she just wanted to see how his body was doing in terms of alignment and flexibility. As a preschooler, he's really active, he's running around, and like lots of active kids, they take tumbles and they take falls, and so she just wanted to sort of get him checked out and make sure that everything was fine in his system as he's continuing to grow and thrive. So one of the fun things about working with preschoolers is they are really getting social, and so inside this footage, you'll see that Truman and I sort of started out on the couch, and I just started to kind of get to know him. He had brought one of his Lego toys with him, so he was telling me the story about the Lego toys, and we were working with that. And as he got comfortable, he actually initiated first contact, what I think of as first contact, with me with his legs. He sort of at one point just easily rested his leg on top of mine, and we started to just kind of like dance our feet with each other. And to me, that's sort of when the body work session started. He felt comfortable enough to initiate touch to me. And so I responded to that invitation and started to work with his legs and just kind of assessing the leg, both legs, for how free and balanced is the knee and the tissue around the joint, the musculature of his calf, the musculature in his thigh. How about the feet, the arches? So one of the things that we learn in pediatric manual therapy, looking at the growth from our alignment as infants through the preschool years and then into the school age years by about 7 or 8, the leg alignment in particular really changes quite a bit. Infants tend to have a leg alignment that the legs are sort of bowed out and they have a very wide foot placement. That's why toddling is toddling. The feet are sort of wide and flat, and folks kind of step up and down and sort of wide, and then the leg arrangement shifts, the pelvic arrangement shifts, the foot arrangement shifts, and we start to see in the toddler to preschool years that the legs sort of come out of that bowed alignment. They start to run and walk more front to back, and the weight goes through the knee and the arches and the ankle more smoothly and more akin to what we think of as adult alignment and function. So in that preschool time, part of what I get to do is check out how are their legs doing at this transformation that they take from infancy to sort of kindergarten, early school age years. I want to make sure that their structure, their architecture is free enough to be able to make those transitions. And Truman had some restrictions in his calves. Nothing big or significant, but freeing it up will allow his structure to make that transition more easily. Then we shifted down onto the floor. Working with preschoolers and toddlers is a real mobile act. We don't expect them to lay on a table and just rest in one position the way an adult might. And we kind of take advantage of the mobility of that age, that toddler and preschool age, because every time they're moving, I can feel, does this side of the rib cage want to move freely, or does it kind of get hung up a little bit? So you'll see as he plays, he's playing with the different toys, the balls, and then later the wind-up toys, that as he's reaching and stretching and sitting and changing position, I'm working with his system, assessing and treating as I go. And what's nice about that is that to him it feels like he gets to come over and kind of play, and there's a little bit of treatment in and around. Touch is happening, but it doesn't feel the tone and the exchange of the session has more of a sort of playful, informal feel to it than, say, a visit to the doctor's office child. And there are occasions where the work is specific enough or subtle enough where I do need them to be a little bit more still. And I find that usually most toddlers are willing to kind of play with me, and my go-to strategy with that is let's count to a certain number. And in this instance, I'm doing a slight traction on Truman's ears to check some of the cranial structures, the structures around the base of the skull and within the skull, to make sure they're balanced. Another component that we did, since we had the chance, my husband Richard was with us as well, and so there was a little time where Richard got to work with Truman, and you'll see him treat some other things that we found with Truman's body. When he was playing with the wind-up toys, Richard checked the extension in Truman's hips and found that one hip was a little tighter than the other, something that most of us as grown-ups find quite a bit. If you're a runner or skier or a cyclist, you've probably had somebody tell you to stretch your hip flexors, stretch those muscles that live on the front of the hip. So here we find, even with a preschooler, that there can be a little asymmetry. One hip's a little tighter than the other. So here's Richard stretching and balancing out Truman's hip joints and the muscles that span the hip joint, and then checking out Truman's spine and finding a couple of places that are a little tight or a little crooked, and very gently, very specifically, while Truman's playing, just a little intervention to help his system even out and be more balanced. This is a nice example of the kind of work we do with pediatric manual therapy. There's attention to alignment and flexibility, freedom of movement, attention to the spine and rib cage, the cranium, the legs, the arms. We even do work with organs, all of that to help bring balance and ease to a child's system as they're growing and as they're exploring the world and wanting to learn new activities and gain new mastery of skills. So thanks for your interest in this work, and you can continue to explore our work on our website, craftedtouch.com, and on there you'll also find a link to email us if you'd like to contact to schedule for a session or if you have questions or concerns. Great. Thank you.